In this video, we're going to talk all about your game design document or your GDD. And what I'm showing you here is my current GDD. It's changing on a daily basis, so it might be different when you go and have a look at it. I'll give the links to you guys so you can check it out. I'm also going to provide you with a GDD template. Now, the important thing to know with the template is it's entirely up to you how you create your GDD. Many people don't like GDDs. Many people think they're a waste of time because you write all this stuff and who's going to read it? This is me going through the template now, showing you all this stuff that I'm going to go through in a little bit of detail today, but most of it I'm going to let you go off and have a look for yourself and check it out rather than me going through line by line because it's pretty self-explanatory what I've got going on in here. But back to the question about why create a GDD, it's important for you to have a place to write things down so that A, you don't forget it, and B, so that you get very clear. So these are all the things, and you see I've got the return of the ugly green image that hopefully that bugs you guys enough that you're like, I need to go and put an image in there instead of just looking at this ugly green thing. And as I'm scrolling through, you're getting a general idea of that's as big as the template is at the moment. I think that said 13 pages-ish. There's other sections you can add, there's sections you can remove. This is specifically for a GDD, for an RPG. If you're making a different sort of game, then you'll have a different sort of GDD, but with similar, you're probably going to have camera character controls in whatever sort of GDD you create. But just wanted, as I was yabbering there, I wanted to give you a feel for what's in this template. It's important for you to have a place to write stuff down. So let me give you an example. Here's our current GDD. It's going to change. Table of contents. Got some images up the front to give some flavor. This is the character. I want him to be an old guy. This is Conan the Barbarian from Discworld, if you guys are familiar with it. Here's Monty Python type stuff. Here's some screenshots from games. Give a flavor. The GDD should be very visual. This is something I really want to reinforce right at the start. Visual, visual, visual. That way you can look at it yourself and be like, aha, that's what I want, and other people can look at it. Starting off with a game overview, this is similar to what we did in our one-page GDD. What's the genre? What's the experience? Some imagery's in there. What's the theme? So ours is failure, can't tolerate persistence. What's the rating? The setting? And then some images in there to give a feel for the mood and the tone and the art and how you want it to look and feel, the sort of castle we're trying to get in our prototype level. So there's all the good stuff that you're expecting to have in there, technical details, and then game titles. For ours at the moment, we've got Brainstorm. Because we're not sure the game title, it's swirling around. I'm starting to like this idea of the old guy, the Ministry of Intriguing Peasants. That could be the title, Moip for short, or Muip if you're from the fancy part of town. I'm moving away from this dragon type stuff that I thought it was going to be at the start. Just not feeling it as much. And as our game goes on, as our character runs around, I'm digging the old guy. And we've talked about that on our team with what's our story going to be and who's the player going to be, and we're warming to that direction. It's important that we have camera character controls. This, if you're working on your project and you've sat down and thought, I'm making an RPG, it's going to be fixed camera, and I'll use mouse and keyboard, then maybe that's it. Maybe this section's done already without having to write it down. But what I find is when you do things like, camera, character controls, when I'm writing out my character, I start to realize things like, oh yeah, he needs to have these actions like standing and doing nothing. Oh, that means we need to have idle animations. And oh, there's an opportunity that if I don't move him for 10 seconds that he says something to the camera, or taps his foot or something. So this is in a way, there's a lot of creative flow that happens when you write these things down, when you write it out. What else do we need in there? We need for him to be able to interact and speak with NPCs. Oh yeah, we're going to need a menu for that and user interface for that, and how are things going to slide on the screen or off the screen. So it becomes a checklist as well for future things you need to implement. GDD is a lot about that. It's like, here's all the stuff we need to do. Controls, mapping things out. Going through the process of mapping it, you're going to see, oh, maybe we don't have enough buttons on a controller. So that's the process of camera, character controls. Pretty important to write those things down so you've got it clear. Now, something that's not necessarily common in GDDs, but something I find very powerful, I like to have these in my GDDs, is 30 seconds of gameplay. And the point here is to explain very precisely what is going on in your game. So anyone could close their eyes, listen to the description. I was going to say close their eyes and read it, but that probably isn't going to happen. Close their eyes, listen to the description, and know exactly what is going on in the game. If you can't do this with your game, if you can't describe 30 seconds of gameplay so clearly that anyone could see a picture in their mind, know exactly what's going on, then your game is in for some trouble. It's going to be very difficult for you to create it, either because you're not clear on what's going to happen, or because you're not making a game, you're making a movie, and you're so preoccupied in the story and about the hero and the princess and the villain and all that kind of stuff. So you need to be able to do things like, let's go down here and say a dialogue box appears. He says, "Stop right there," or "Feel the wrath of William Helly." You have 3 options what to say. Move aside, shut your pie hole. I am here to cleanse this foul land of the taint of Beelzebub. Who wrote this? Oh, I think it's me. Being an honorable hero, you select option 1 by clicking on it. So I've got a little bit of, flavor in here as well. You don't need to say being an honorable hero, but I'm trying to set the mood of what's going on. But I'm actually saying you click on option number 1, and then a dialog box shows. So this could even say a dialog box slides from left of screen and says charisma check failed. Oh no. So it's that level of detail in describing it. You click on the health potion at the bottom of the screen and see +50 appear above your character's head as you heal. This is a really good way. So even just something like that, the fact that I've written that out, means I need to go in my work breakdown structure or in my task list or when I'm talking to my team or when I'm scratching it on my notepad beside my desk and say that I need to have display appear over a character's head when they take damage or when they heal. So I know that's an element I need to create in my game because I saw it in my mind as I was creating my 30 seconds. Gameplay features. In here, you basically just list out, here are the big buckets of things that we need to create. So I've got a little bit of extra flavor in mine here. Talking to my team and for us having some dialogue. We do it in Google Docs so we can comment and chat within this document about, are we doing more of a vertical slice or horizontal slice? So I've got some details about that. But generally, I'm going to flip back over to the template here so you can see going through the same stuff, images everywhere as much as you can, 30 seconds of gameplay, put an image for that. And then here, for the gameplay features, it's basically just bullet point them out. What's your main feature? That could be combat, where it's combat with special abilities. Or special abilities would be a feature, inventory would be a feature, branching dialogue would be a feature, and so on. So you write out the main features that you've got in there, and then you go into the detail of explaining what's in that feature. And you get really nitty-gritty in this part of it, so it's very, very clear. And be as, again, I'm probably going to say it 100 times by this video is over, be as visual as you can. So it doesn't, I went and deliberately created ugly looking art so that you guys don't feel bad if you're as terrible as I am at sketching these things out. I was pretty proud of this at the time, to be honest. But, I've got my pink writing in there, deliberately not trying to look good, and I've just scrolled it in. So even if you're not an artist, you can scratch out what your game looks like. And in here, it's a way, without having to go and do the coding and the creation of it and the art assets and all those kind of things. This sort of thing can take you, I don't know, maybe an hour to do. And if you're building something like, here's a doorway that allows players to go into buildings. And as you're doing that, you think, I don't think that's going to work. I've changed my mind. I don't want that in my game. Then you haven't gone through all the effort of creating the asset or doing the scripting it up or programming or architecting it. This is where you put on your designer hat and you've got to see your game as much as you can and create it in diagrams like this. We've done this a few times throughout the course. We've scribbled notes and stuff. But things like whereabouts are you going to have your user interface? Play around with that now. It doesn't need to be perfect. You can see here that I've got it. It looks pretty rough and ready. I've just got health, and then I've got an M there referring to mana. I'm thinking that's going to be energy now. So it doesn't matter if it's a little bit off. It's just generally what are you thinking in terms of how things are going to be constructed. Put in diagrams, explain it. Here's another one here where I've just kind of scratched this out in terms of the hit animations. So this is under the topic of combat and movement, which is one of our main features. And underneath here, I've got hit and being hit. When the player hits the enemy, I want that to interrupt the enemy. And what I mean by that is if the enemy's just about to hit me and I hit him first, then he won't hit me. It'll stop him from hitting me, and it'll do damage to him, obviously. And there'll be some sort of animation hit reaction. Now, when the enemy hits me, I don't want to be interrupted because I think it's very frustrating for the player to be interrupted like that. I want the player to flash, like some sort of visual effect, but still keep their spacing between their attacks. If they're hitting every half a second or 1 second, to keep doing that and not to be interrupted. And that means we don't need an animation for when the player gets hit. So that's me just explaining it in a pretty simple diagram. When I was going through the process of drawing this, if it's just you on the project, as it was me just drawing this, I was playing it in my mind, I was thinking about it, how's this going to work, does this make sense? I went and had a look at some other games for reference. I looked to see how Diablo did it, and that matched up with what I was thinking. So this is the Diablo way, and I got some extra ideas, and I played through that and checked it. So this was me kind of designing it as I was drawing it as well. Again, I'm just reiterating that maybe no one apart from you will ever see this, but it's very useful and very valuable for you to create it so that you've worked through that process and that flow. And this is something that we're going to be doing in the next couple of, maybe not next couple of videos, but in the next little while, I'll say that, uncommittal there. In the next short while, we're going to be implementing, hopefully, this energy mechanic, where when you do a certain, I've written it down here in more detail, so this is me just writing down how I want things to go down. For now, left click is a regular attack, right click, or B button if you've got a controller perhaps, is for the power attack, and that uses energy. So this energy here will go down a little bit if there's 100 energy points. Perhaps when I right click, it goes down by 20, so I've got 80 remaining. And I've just written this out to explain what's going on here, and that attack will do more damage. That for me is a start for our special attacks, so that if we can implement that, right mouse click does a bigger damage than regular attack and drops the energy a little bit, then the next thing we can do is attach, for example, that power attack to button number 1, and then also have a button number 2, which is another ability. I've written my abilities down here. You know what? I might want to have just bold this. Special abilities, special ability types. I think this is a. Okay, sorry, I've got it up here. Lost my own track of thought here. Special abilities and attacks is what we're talking about here. So I do have a heading on that. That's an important thing to make sure you do. And then power hit, stun, freeze, area of effect. I want to do that pretty early on. So that could be button number 2. And again, we're starting off with this mechanic and then adding more depth to it and more details and so on. And then I've written out things like this that we're not ready to get to in terms of our implementation. So I won't go through this in detail for you guys, but this is what are all of the things that contribute to the final damage being dealt in terms of weapons and attributes and buffs and so on. And I've written this out created this more of a diagram here. When we get to this in the course, I'll take you through how I created this and what it all means. But for now, I'm just going through it from the context of putting it into the GDD and having it as detailed as you can. I've got tables in here, and then we've got character traits. This is a feature where I want the scores linked with dialogues. Lots and lots of good stuff. Okay, so that was gameplay features. Where we are in your template is features, features, features. And then the next big chunk is story and theme. Now, don't go overboard on this. Don't write a novel. Don't create a huge backstory. Just get to the point for what you need right at the moment. And try to get as high level as you can. Bring it all the way up to the top. If you can't give one sentence of what your story and theme is about, then it's going to be too complex for the player to understand it. So for us, our core story and core theme at the moment, it might change, it might evolve. When you're going and looking at my document, it might be something totally different, is that the peasants are the good guys, the nobility are the bad guys, and our hero is an old, 86-year-old, crotchety old dude who is on a quest to bring down the monarchy. That's kind of the core essence of it. And, here's the images. Here's a guy, old guy. We're playing around with what his call to action is. So I've got a bit about the character in here. Who is he? What's he up to? You guys can read this, put your own depth in. And a little bit of why I'd want to play as this character. Then we need a villain. Your game needs a villain, an enemy, someone to fight against, someone to someone to attack, someone to want to bring down the empire of. For us at the moment, our villain is Prince Derry, who is heir to the throne, so he's Prince Derry heir, which I thought's terribly clever. Prince Derry heir to the throne, so it makes him like Prince Bottom or his royal anus or something entirely clever like that. And I've modeled him. I've got this imagery in here. If you guys have seen, what's this? Braveheart. It is the forgot what it was from a moment. Braveheart. It's the prince from Braveheart who is kind of the sort of guy that you want to put a knife through his eye kind of thing because you don't like him. So that's what I want in our game. What's your struggle and your objective? What's your call to action and your motivation in your game? So look at all of what I'm talking to you here through the lens of your game and say, what do I want the player to be trying to do in my game? What's he trying to achieve? And if you're just following along with our game, that's cool, but try to do a spin to it. Like, take this enemy, take this villain, and create your own sort of villain. So you're not just doing exactly our type of villain. So that's all that stuff there. Enemy design, I don't have a lot in here just yet, but this will fill out more as we get in mini bosses and different types of weapons and abilities. We've talked about this in some of the other videos already in terms of stats and stuff. I just got some ideas in there. Now I've got a section here for brainstorming where we can just put in, our game is going to be silly and funny. So you can put in whatever you want. Over to the template here, I've got in just brainstorm general ideas, NPC character ideas, puzzle and challenge ideas if that's relevant for you, and then tools, plugins, assets, notes. Because down here for the bottom of our GDD, at the very, very end, we've got things like what tools could we use or what things could we get from the asset store. So that is the entirety of our GDD at present. And that is the template. So that template is available for you guys. I'll put it in the resources section. What I want you to do now, you've probably guessed already, is your challenge is create your GDD. To go and grab the template that I've created, copy that. You won't be able to edit the template because if you did that, then everyone would be seeing your edits. So copy the content or duplicate it or start your own new one and paste all the content in there and then populate it, fill it out with what is your game. And then what I want you to do is put in at least one diagram or one table or one chart or something that you scribble down how things are going to work and to share your best diagram in the discussions. The GDD is going to be a living document. What that means is that it's going to change on a daily basis. You're going to keep updating it, new ideas, you're going to take things out, you're going to put things in, you're going to say, no, I'm not doing it that way anymore, I'm going to do it this way. That is totally excellent. So start working in that. Any ideas you've got, dump it in there. And from this point on in the course, I'm going to be asking you guys every now and again to say, write that in your GDD. Here's something we're working on, go put that in your GDD. So good luck with that, and I will see you guys in an upcoming video.